so scared. I saw Jurassic Park as a kid, and I was like, that was that was too far. That man was just trying to go to the bathroom and I can't do it. I love it. Are you like scary? There are some people who watch scary movies and they're just like, haha, it's funny to me, like it's not even scary. And then some people who are like, it's scary and I like being scared. Like who likes, yeah, I knew it. It's okay. You can be proud. Yeah, you can raise a high. All right, well, speaking of spooky, we are in the book of Mark, and see what I did there? And we've been in the book of Mark for a long time, and we'll be here for a lot longer, because we're only at chapter 6, and it's been the whole year. But there's so much goodness in this. So we are in Mark chapter 6 this week, and we are in verse 47. It says, later that night, the boat was in the middle of the lake, and he was alone on the land. Oh, this is Jesus, by the way. In case you're wondering who is the star of the show, he saw the disciples straining at the oars because the wind was against them. Shortly before dawn, he went out to them, walking on the lake. He was about to pass them. But when they saw him walking on the lake, they thought it was a ghost, and they cried out, "Ah!" A little ad-lib. Because they saw him and were terrified. Uh-oh. Immediately he spoke to them and said, "Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid." Then he climbed into the boat with them, and the wind died down. They were completely amazed. For they had not understood about the loaves, their hearts were hardened. Okay, so here's the context for this. Right before this happened was the moment where, they had like a loaf of artisan sourdough and a tin of sardines, and then like many people were able to be fed, the fishes and the loaves, right? That's what Corey talked about last week. And that's the context right before this. And so then we go into this moment where the disciples are on the boat, straining, and Jesus walks up to them. They get scared. They think it's a ghost. I'm just repeating. I just read it. Okay, that's what we're talking about. And as I was thinking about this passage, and I've heard this passage a lot, and this is like one of the greatest hits of Jesus. It's so great, and I'm thinking about it this morning in the context of fear, because I think a lot of us, right, all of us have experienced fear, whether you chose it at the movie theater or not, it can happen to you. And the reality is there's all sorts of ways that we experience fear, and the truth that I've been wrestling with is the fear of what happens when you get something you want, or the fear of sort of believing in the miracle, or the fear of letting yourself hope for the best outcome. Albert Einstein has a quote that says, there's only two ways to live your life. One is if nothing's a miracle, and the other is as if everything's a miracle, right? And so I've been thinking a lot about perspective in this story. And it reminded me of a time, I've shared this story a couple times at New Abbey. When I was in middle school, I was insufferable. I mean, you think I like to talk now. Imagine me as a tween. That's why I'm so grateful for the people in our church who will suffer through with these. But I was just like the kind of middle schooler who I would get attached to something and I couldn't stop. And so at one point in middle school, I saw a movie. And in the movie, the star of the movie had a pet iguana. And the iguana had like a leather jacket. And they were like best friends. And so I'm like, that's it. That's the fantasy. I won't settle for anything less. And I became obsessed. And this is the kind of kid I was, in case you're wondering. If you have this kind of kid, I'm so sorry. I went to the library at my school, and I printed out all, like, iguana facts. Like, I got books. I checked out books on iguanas. I photocopied them in the library. Every single morning when my dad went to work, he would open his briefcase, and I had put in there papers about iguana facts under the pillow, my parents' pillows, okay, drawings of iguanas, okay? Every night at dinner, iguana talk. I was relentless. They had no choice. And my family, we are not lizard people, okay? We are absolutely not. We had a dog, but the dog lived outside, for context, okay? We're barely dog people. So I finally get my parents to give in because they're just, like, tired of me, I think. So that's one strategy if you guys are thinking about it. And we go to the pet store, and my dad, who was, like, very against the iguana, but a sweet, thoughtful dad, finally took me to the pet store to get an iguana, and had also, like, researched and found and bought me a tiny leather jacket harness for my iguana, okay? Isn't he so sweet and thoughtful? because this is what I wanted for. This is what I wanted. This is what I begged for. And when we got to the pet store, you guys, this was the time I realized I've never seen an iguana in real life. And I was not pleased. It's very scary. They are very scary looking in real life. In the movie, this lady, like, they were friends. I don't know, she felt so comfortable around it. I got this monster in my room, and I was terrified of it. Like, so scared of it, like I couldn't, like I would feed it like this. Like I would just throw the food in there and like close the thing because I was like, what if it's smart? And what if it's watching how I'm gonna open the cage and feed it, and then it learns how to open the cage. Next thing I know, I wake up, Howard is what I named him, is on my face. You know what I mean? So I'm like, and I don't know how to tell my parents, like, hey, the thing I've been begging you for months for is my worst nightmare, I just found out. And so it was time to clean his cage. And my parents were like, okay, maybe you could take him out in his cute leather harness, we'll clean the cage. And I had to come clean and say, I can't touch that thing. I think it's my worst nightmare, and I've never been more afraid to sleep at night. Whoa, were they mad. My dad made me go with him and made me tell the man at the pet store all of the things that I had done leading up to getting this iguana, and then tell the man that I was scared of it, and take it back. It was very embarrassing. And I never got anything else I wanted from that point on. And I never asked, okay, because I got it. And there's a real reality that sometimes when we get the things we want, it's scary. Not as scary as an iguana waking up and there's an iguana on your face. But there is an extreme vulnerability in wanting and wanting and wanting and wanting and wanting something. And when that thing gets to you and you finally get it and you finally have it, there is an extreme vulnerability in there. There is an extreme vulnerability. If it's like a family, or you work so hard, what you want more than anything is a partnership, and then you're in like a happy, healthy relationship, but in the back of your mind you're thinking like, what if something goes wrong? This is gonna go wrong, something's gonna happen, and then something's gonna happen, and this is actually what I want, and actually this is very scary, and actually I don't like it, right? There are all these things that we want and we want and we want, the miracles in our life that we pray for, that we want God to show up in, that we beg our parents for, whatever the case may be, and we get them, and there's extreme vulnerability in getting those things. And what's so interesting to me about this story is they are coming fresh off of an actual miracle. They're coming like fresh off of, hey, anything is possible. I am redefining these things, and I am opening you up to the reality that miracles are real. And then 5 seconds later, they're in a boat, and they see what they think is Jesus walking by, but that can't be Jesus, must be a ghost, right? And it's such a real and relatable experience. And I think about this all the time because there's like miracle amnesia, right? It's a term I just made up. I'm gonna quote that we all experience. When I went to college, and I chose to go to a very affordable private Christian college, and we did not have the money for it. This is a true story. My freshman year, Thanksgiving break, the financial aid office was like, either come up with $20,000 or don't come back, because you're behind, you don't have any money, whatever, you haven't paid for school. And I'm like lamenting to like this random kid who I didn't know, who's like dad owned the one and only airport in Vail. This kid is my age, by the way. We're both like 19. He writes me a check for $20,000. And I was like, sick. Okay, so that's how I made it through my freshman year of college. And then sophomore year of college, same thing. They're like, now you owe, $15,000, you can't come back. So I'm like, what am I gonna do? This happens every single year of college. Like a scholarship that like someone made up, a friend of a friend. My uncle's friend who ran a concrete thing was like, I can do it if it's tax deductible, found a way, like maybe it was tax fraud, but like, they donated to like, it's a private Christian college. I don't even know how it happened. And somehow I made it through college, still with a lot of loans, but a lot of help. But what I think about a lot in my life is, as someone who has experienced what I would consider miracle after miracle to make it through these things, money is still my number one fear. The thing that will wake me up in the middle of the night and I am like gnawing at the mouth guard that my dentist so sweetly fitted to my teeth is because I'm stressed about money. It is like the one thing that will keep me up at night. It's my greatest fear. I have experienced miracle after miracle after miracle and after miracle. But if you ask me if I feel like something is going to come that is a big financial hit that I won't be able to recover from, the answer is yes. And I really wonder why that is, because I'm like, oh, if you ground yourself in the reality of the facts, you have experienced miracle after you saw the fish and the loaves, and now you're in the boat thinking it's a ghost, but it's actually Jesus coming to be with you. But there is something so vulnerable about being able to hope and ground myself in the fact that miracles are available to me, that hope is real, that I can allow myself to assume the best in every situation, that if I see a dark shadow, I bet it's not a ghost, I bet it's Jesus Christ coming to commune with me. I don't think that. And I think a lot of us don't think that, because that is far more vulnerable. The beauty and the ease of fear is that it keeps us from having to be vulnerable of assuming the best. Fear is easy because we get to fill in the blank with something that is so familiar to us. A shadow, ghost. Something's coming, bet it's bad. Looks like it's going my way, bet it's going to turn. Right? And it keeps us and it shields us from the vulnerability that is so real and raw when we have to hope. That if what around every corner, it was Jesus wanting to meet me with a miracle. And the reality is, I think the opposite of fear is curiosity. Something I try to ground myself in when I start to shame, fear spiral about something is I really just go through all the times that I thought it wouldn't work out, and it did. The truth is, every single person in here has made it through the hardest thing you've ever been through. So what we have is data point after data point after data point that we thought that thing would break us and we didn't, that we thought we wouldn't recover from that thing and then we did, that we thought we could have made it through that news and then we did, that we thought we couldn't make it through this disaster and then we did, that we thought that would break us and then we didn't, that we thought this, and all of these things for us to still be here. But every time we see a shadow coming in the darkness, we think it's a ghost, and we don't let ourselves hope for the reality that every shadow looking around the corner might actually be Jesus wanting to commune with us. And how might things change if we were open to the reality that around every corner could be a miracle? I was having a conversation with friends, and we were just talking about, like, the climate. Okay, you fill in the blank. Political, social, physical climate. And it was just the funniest pattern, because one of us would say something like, isn't it great that blank? And then the next comment would be like, yeah, but you know blank. And you fill in anything, right? Like, isn't it kind of great that I feel like we're making a little movement towards blank? Yeah, but you know blank's right around the corner. Hey, doesn't it feel good? You would like that, wouldn't you? Right? Like, and it was hilarious to me, because I was like, we won't even allow ourselves to hope in the reality that a miracle could be possible, or that change is happening, or that there is a God who wants to commune with us, or that these things are real, or all of these things, because we cut ourselves off as soon as we feel that vulnerability of the hope with, yeah, but next thing you know, we'll feed the 5,000 now, but then a ghost's going to come for you on the boat. And you're like, why would that even be real? And this is the most relatable thing. They just left, like, one of the biggest miracles, experiencing one of the highest highs. And the first thing they think when they see something in the water is it must be a ghost coming to get us. And I just feel like so many of us can relate to that feeling of experiencing something good, of seeing change happening, of, like, wanting to allow ourselves to hope, of realizing that we made it through something dark, of feeling like something might be opening up in our lives. And then we fill in the blanks of what might be coming around the corner. And I think there's a lot of wisdom and beauty in the scriptures, and a constant reminder to be open to the reality that we do love and serve and worship a God who wants to commune with us. And in that communing, we get to experience this great network of change and transformation and liberation and hope. I think all the time about what Dr. King said of the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And I really do believe that that is true, that it is very long, longer than I would like, but it does bend towards justice. And so if I can ground myself in this reality, then I don't get as lost in the hopelessness of, like, oh, it feels like we're making a little bit of change here, but I guess there's just another disaster coming down our way soon, right? Or I can look and say, wow, look at the change and the progress, look at the conversations, look how things have changed, look how the arc of the moral universe, look how long it is, but I could see the bend towards justice. If I look at my own life and I think, okay, like, something might be right around the corner that's going to take me out, but so far nothing has. So how do I let myself rest in the fact and hope for miracles instead of guarding myself with a false reality that the fear is what's going to keep me safe from this thing? Because I think that's what a lot of us do. That's what I do. It's not more fun, but sometimes it feels safer to fear spiral than to be like, go to bed and be like, man, what if everything is okay? Like, that's not what happens. But there's beauty in saying, okay, how can I ground myself in a curiosity of what has actually happened? I've seen the fishes and the loaves. You all, every single person in this room has had an experience where you have seen that miracle. You didn't think that that thing would happen. You didn't think that you would get that news. You didn't think you would make it through that thing, and you did. Now, how can that shape our reality for how we experience the unknown moving forward? I'm not here to say that bad things will never happen. That's irresponsible. But I do think that when we allow ourselves to ground in the curiosity, then fear may not be our initial response when we encounter new things. That we may not be so quick to dismiss hopeful experiences in our life in the name of, I bet something bad is coming right around the corner. That we would be able to sit a little bit longer with the reality that we have experienced miracles. And I just think that would shake some things up. We used to have this tradition in our family where my mom, all through the year, she had something called a miracle journal. And she would write in it, whenever she felt like a miracle happened. And then on New Year's Day, we would all, eat pozole, and she would read them to us. And I would think, every year I'd be like, this thing's gonna be, we're gonna be 2 or 3, maybe. This thing's gotta be pretty empty. This was a very non-miraculous year, okay? And then she would start reading, and she's like 10 pages in, And it's things like, all 3 of my kids got on flights this week and landed safely. And you're like, oh man, and she just has list after list after list of things that every single week, day, month of that year, she was like, these are all the miracles. And then I sit back on New Year's Day and I think back the year and I'm like, oh my gosh, this was this is a miracle. There's so many miracles. So many things are possible. And the reality is that doesn't mean that nothing bad happened in that year, but when you are curious about all the miracles that you have experienced, it gives you a lens for a way to look at what's coming ahead and move forward. And what I think we desperately need, if you look around for 5 seconds and you open literally any app, turn on any channel, or have any conversation, I think we need some people who are arming themselves with the reality that miracles are possible, that change is happening, and that these things can really exist. That around every corner may not be a ghost or the worst thing that's ever happened, that there may be some good and some change. And so I think the invitation this morning is to curiosity. I was literally, this week, I was at a coffee shop and I went to write and be creative, And 5 minutes after opening my laptop, I was like, God, financial disaster is right around the corner. I could just be sure of it. The news told me, everyone is like, this is the worst economic thing, blah, 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 blah. I don't even know anything about economics, but I'm like, yeah, that guy, he looked studious. He said it was bad, And then I just had an exercise where I was like, a random man, when you were 19, who also happened to also be 19, gave you a $20,000 check so you could finish college. You made it through this. You and your wife, you left, you got fired for being gay and figured it out. You didn't think that you could have a job after being a megachurch pastor, because let's be honest. Hey, can I run your tech company? I was a megachurch pastor. I know how to turn on lights and lasers. And you figured it out. And then you didn't think that would work out, and then it did. And yeah, there were some tough seasons in there, and we were a broke, capital B, and we're okay. And maybe we'll be broke again, but now I know that you can be broke and then make it. There's just a grounding in curiosity that helped to stop me from spiraling in the fear that around every corner is a ghost. And I think that is helpful as we move into this season that is sure to be full of a lot of spookiness. You're already probably feeling it. There are a lot of ways to discount your own hope. And I hope that we just ground ourselves in a little curiosity that allows us to keep something that is so fundamental to the practice of following Jesus, and that is hope. And that is believing in miracles. And it is that the reality that change and transformation is possible. And that's far more vulnerable, but I think it's just as beautiful. And ultimately, that's what I want for this community. That's what I want for this country. That's what I want for this political season. That's what I want for everything, is people who ground themselves in the reality that change is possible. And that is the way of this Jesus that we follow. It's hope, it's transformation, it's change, it's vulnerability. It's the people who are saying, I believe it because I saw the fish and the loaves. Okay, if that wasn't enough, okay, I'm going to come walk out to you on the water. Okay, if that wasn't enough, okay, I'm going to go into the grave and come back. Okay, if that wasn't enough, I'm going to keep reminding you that change and transformation is possible. And every time you experience something that you think is going to be the worst of the worst, there's life on the other end. And how does that shape our reality? And how does that shape the things that we do? I can't remember a time in my life where it has felt this vulnerable to be hopeful. And that tells me that I need to lean into that. So you're going to grab the same 3 or 4 people around you, and you're going to answer this question. How you feeling, hope? Are you feeling it? Are you not?